It does help if you look for jobs before you graduate. It takes, well, it took me around a month when I started looking, and then being hired, it took around a month for me. But I know it can take like 2 to 3 to 4 months to really find the job that you want. So just be prepared that it does take some time. So if you are going to need a job like right out of school, start looking before you graduate. Even though I think you're still sophomores and juniors, so you kind of have some time to worry about that. But just keep that in mind. You guys can
Excuse me.
So this is, are you psychology majors?
Yes.
Okay, has anyone ever heard of ABA therapy? Okay, it's applied behavioral analysis, and it is psychology in practice. You basically condition people to behave how it's acceptable in society. So I primarily work with children with autism, and I highly, highly recommend you look into it. Google ABA therapy, Google behavior technician. That's what my job is called. I'm a registered behavior technician. It is a growing field. There are tons of children who need help, and whose families are looking for support. So it's a job that's in demand, which means that the pay is good. And so if you really are interested in psychology, like I said, highly recommend looking into this. So it's called Registered Behavior Technician, ABA Therapy. I know there are several companies here in Daytona, or Port Orange. There's one in Port Orange, I know, if you want to get a head start and maybe get your foot in the door before you graduate, because you can work in the field before you graduate. You do have to get a certification. I'll probably be here for a little while, maybe in the building. So if you do have any questions about it, you can reach out to me, or I can provide my email address and you can email me. But I definitely look into it. There are a lot of options with a psychology degree that you can go into career-wise. So just keep your minds open. What else I need to say? Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
What made you decide to be a behavior technician?
So I didn't really want to go into the social work field because I wanted a job that was going to help me be better for grad school. I want to go into clinical psychology. Like I'm applying now to go into get my PhD, and I wanted something that was kind of like clinical in a sense, while also like learning about theories. So this job is honestly the perfect thing. I'm glad I found it because I didn't know it existed until like February. So if you're interested in pursuing a higher degree in psychology, I would recommend it because it's like in practice, but it's also rewarding and it pays. Any other questions? Oh yeah, sorry.
So it is good. So you're supposed to get a job after undergrad to prepare you for grad school?
You don't have to, because a lot of times you can find opportunities in school to do research. A lot of the times, well, it helps you if you have research experience before you are applying into these programs, and I'm sure Dr. Hollar can like give you more information about that, but they want to see that you are interested in psychology and that you also have specific interests in it, because in these programs they have specific professors and you have to pick like which professors you want to work with. So you're kind of applying to work with a specific professor. You can correct me if I'm wrong. That's my interpretation of it. So you want to have experience doing research, so you can be BFFs with him. I'm pretty sure you do research here. But if you don't do research in school, if you have a job like this, it shows you like psychology and you want to learn more in psychology, and and then you have experience.
Let's take one more question.
Would your job be a good job for someone who wants to be a mental health counselor?
I think it could be a good start. You're learning about theories and then you're applying them and you're taking data on what you're applying to your clients. So I think that it could, like if you can't find anything else, there's always something that you can learn, and then you can always twist it to apply it to what you do want to do. But I think, yeah, I think it would. All right, you also.
said for the behavioral profession, you said there'd be a certain certifications. What were they?
So there's a 40-hour class you have to take, and then there's several like 20-hour classes that you have to take. And then you have to go to a testing center, like if you're taking the essay, when you take the GRE, or I don't know if you guys aren't even worried about that yet. You have to go to a testing center to take it, so it's kind of like a big deal. And then you have to pass the test. But if you kind of pay attention in the class, you shouldn't have a problem with it. It helps if you get a company to back you while you're working on it. Like, oh, we'll pay for this, and then we'll hire you, or we'll reimburse you.
Is that what you do with the company as well?
Yeah, first they hired me, and then they helped me through the process. But I know, like, the industry is constantly changing, because it has a lot of things to do with Medicaid. Oh, it's a mess. But, yeah, you just have to take the class, basically, and pass the test. But you can start while you're in school.
Okay, and so we're going to let Ms. Carter relax and take a seat for a second. You're welcome to stay. Of course, I'm sure they might have more questions. But I want to bring up Mr. Angel Vives to come talk to us as well. He's another one of our students, one of my students, just like Lydia was, that graduated recently from Bethune Cookman University. And actually, I think you're one of the first males to speak to our professional seminar class. So, Angel, go ahead and take it away.
Well, good morning, everybody. Like Dr. Hollar said, my name is Angel Vives. I'm a recent graduate, graduated in May of this past year. I'm not going to take up too much of y'all time. When it comes to school and postgraduate, it's all about making sure you prepare yourself. How many seniors in here? I already know about. Any seniors?
No. Freshmen, sophomore, psychology and sociology students.
Unregistered, because ain't nobody raised their hand? Like, okay. Well, no matter your classification, once you become a senior, your final semester, the whole setup of getting out of here is you need to have an internship. Your internship literally is a stepping stone, a setup for you to be put into the field. As long as you do right by yourself, everything is going to come to you. Now, you're going to have sticks in the roads. You're going to have things that happen. It's life. But as long as you make sure that you set yourself up properly, postgraduate is going to all depend on your work ethic. What did you put into it? When I graduated, I got lucky enough to get an internship through a school, Marshman, which is where I'm at right now. I graduated on May 5th. I was working on May 7th. That was the Monday. So as long as you make sure that you do what you got to do, you put forth the effort and you set yourself up properly, you can avoid a lot of those downfalls that a lot of people experience once they graduate, because postgraduate depression is real. Even if you do have a job, you can feel like you're stuck, like it's not going nowhere, or you're not making enough money, you need more of this, you need more of that. But once you allow yourself to get in, just get your foot in the door and get that experience. Once you get that, now you can start taking other steps. But you got to make sure you do what you need to do here. Do that right here, right now, to make sure once you leave, all you got to do is continue the process.
Tell us some of the things you did while you were here to prepare yourself, the organizations and the opportunities you took advantage of.
So I originally came here in 2013. I was a member of the marching band, and I left after my freshman year because of personal reasons, family reasons. And I ended up coming back in the fall of 2015 with a completely different mindset. When I first came here, it was all about joining the band and being in the band, and that was my whole life. When I came back, it was about being in school and making school my #1 priority. So when I got back, I made it my mission to be more committed, to get involved on campus, because I'm an introverted person. I'm not out like that. So I got involved with ABSI. ABSI was one of the first things I was interested in. Anybody that's interested in research, that is a great. I was the head of the research hub for ABSI while I was here. Great opportunities, allows you to network with a lot of people from all across the country. When you join ABSI, and you go to those ABSI conventions, but when you do that research, that gives you hands-on experience to show people, look, I did this. I actually can apply the things that I learned, because let's be honest, you get your degree, all it says is that you made it through. You got a debt certificate, you made it through, but what do you really know? You know, so ABSI was one of the first things that interested me, because that's just, I'm a black male, I'm at a HBCU, so you guys can put that together. I also got involved with BMTT. I got involved with BMTT about a year and a half ago, and then upon my final semester, I joined Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. But my main focus when it came to my actual career, AB Sci was my number one thing, because I knew, for number one, my degree is in psychology. I'm going to continue to get my higher degrees in psychology. So I use that as my main focus to set me up to give me some kind of experience. Because for the position that I have now, I'm a suicide prevention trainer. I used him in my interview because they asked me, have I ever done anything like this? Do I know anything about it? Well, the head of my psychology department, his focus was suicide. Oh, okay. And then that's where your connections come in, because, like I said before, once you get that degree, yes, congratulations, you did it, you made it. But what can you show for it? Who do you know? Do you have any connections? Can somebody get you in there? Because everybody's fighting for it. Everybody's fighting for some kind of position. And all of y'all know, when y'all get jobs don't look at every application. They go through protocol. And then they ask people who are there, do you know anybody who needs a job? Do you know anybody who needs this and needs that? And y'all can see that on campus, because it's business. But as long as you set yourself up properly, you do what you got to do, everything literally falls into place. I'm going to end it
Tell
with...
them what ABSci stands for?
Oh, Association of Black Psychologists. I'm sorry.
And so they were in you told about the student circle and the research that you did?
Yeah, so like I said, I was the head of the research hub for about, I believe, a year and a half, 2 years. And basically what we did, we came to the round table, we just threw out research ideas. And in 2017, our president of ABSci, Tamara Williams, she actually got approved to present her research at the ABSci conference in Houston, Texas. One of the best experiences of my life. Met so many people from all across the country who've done the things that we've done, who've been in places that we've been in. I met one individual. The man said he graduated with his master's and he had, I think he said he had $25 in his account. And now he's a multi-millionaire, retired, did everything he does what he wants now. But I think what he said was, what was his niche was about making those connections and being able to mingle with people and know people who can put you in the right places.
So going to the ABSci conference, they were able to network with other professors at institutions around the country, and that's very important. So doing the research here will allow us to travel. It gives you the experience that you need to put on a resume. It shows that you're scientific minded and that you will adhere to the up-to-date scientific research when you're out in the community doing your practice. Any questions for Mr. Vives? Gentlemen, do you have any questions for Mr. Vives?
Oh, last thing. Yeah, gentlemen, it's not a lot of us in this field. It's not a lot. When you get out there, it's not, you know, you're gonna, if you're fortunate enough to experience the fruits of your labor, you're gonna see that I don't have a lot of people that look like me. I don't have a lot of people even in my age group. I don't have a lot of people who I can personally relate to. But you're the missing link. You're the missing key of what connects what's in the room, that generation, those mindsets, to where we just came from, which is this campus, which is the real world. Because we can talk politically all day on what's good, what's right, what people know, but what are you really doing? So take advantage of this, man. It's school. I know what it's like. I know the situation that the school is in right now, but as long as you do what you gotta do, no matter what goes on. When I got my new position, I ran up to Dr. Hollar and I told him, and I thanked him for everything that he did for me. And his response was, I didn't do anything, you did all of that. And to be honest with you, that's probably the least humbling thing I've ever said in my life. Because he allowed me to be in the right place at the right time. But if it wasn't for me actually doing my research papers, getting out and doing something beyond band practice and beyond class, I wouldn't be here right now. So y'all take advantage of what y'all have, because school is too expensive for you to just come out with nothing.
Any questions for Mr. Vives?
Yes.
Okay, like for your junior year, some things, like, not what's your first step, but what are the main things that you should be looking at? Like this, like, I don't know, like, I know internships and, like, if you could tell us from your experience, senior year, like,
Okay, so with me, like when it comes to your senior year, it's all about, because I was actually just helping somebody who's getting ready to graduate this semester with her research paper or something. It's all about trying to set yourself up before. Like, I know I started working for SMA, but I actually was in a bad bind. When I was trying to get my internship, I got it late, but I ended up finding it, and then she ended up taking me on, and here I am now. But like the stuff in the background that you do is like when you coming up on your final semester, look beforehand. Look for intern opportunities before the semester starts, because you know you're gonna have to do an internship. So just look for that before. When it comes to like your senior thesis, y'all know y'all have to take research methods. Use what you did in research methods to help you with your senior thesis. A lot of stuff that we do, we can. A lot of the work that we've already done in the past, we can make it work for us again if you just if you use it properly. You know what I'm saying? That research, the paper that you do for research methods is literally a blueprint for what you're going to do for your senior thesis. So if you use that, then you just created a big headache off of you. When he is doing a review for a test, pay attention, because he's giving you what you need. He's not going to blatantly say the question and then the answer is this, remember this on Friday. No, he's going to give you all the material that you need as long as you show up and pay attention. Go over it. Don't cheat yourself. Because when it's all said and done, do you really want to graduate and not feel like you know anything? So you take advantage of when he does his reviews and any of the other professors. When your final semester is approaching, or whenever you're going to do your internship, look early, get in early, make those calls, set that up, build that relationship, and then when it's time to graduate, you have a smooth transition. Once you've already started your internship and you've gotten some time in there, then you work your way into building those relationships to, maybe I can get this to roll over into a position.
Is it best to do internships senior or junior year, or is it like, are you looking for more recent things?
No, because see, it's all about what works for you, because sometimes you can do your internship in the summer, sometimes you can do your internship before your final year, just depending upon what goes on with your curriculum and things like that, because I know people have things that get messed up. But as long as you get it done, all you're trying to do is plug yourself in. That's it. I know everybody done heard about being plugged in. Internship is plugging yourself in. You don't want to do an internship and then you graduate and leave and now you can't get a job.
Okay. And last question, and then we'll proceed to the next.
So I'm an AV tech too, and I want how did you come about doing how did you become like I can remember research?
I had a research.
Pretty good at research.
So I forgot exactly how it happened, but I was just talking with Ms. Vance one day.
They took the initiative to do it, and then they came and asked me if I would help them out. That's what it was. You guys have to take the initiative. We're here as a resource to you. You guys are adults. What do you want to do? Let the faculty know, and we'll help you.
Yeah, man. Y'all the customers. Everybody on staff and at this campus works for you. Remember that. Don't be a snob and don't be rude, but they work for you. And he told me that when he first got here. Like, so y'all have, like, as much as the nonsense that you deal with, I know, but you are really, like, you're in one of the best programs at this school. Take advantage of it. Use it.
Thank you. Let's give them both a round of applause. That was a special treat that we had because it's homecoming week and we were able to get some alumni to come speak with us. And now I want some people from the community, the professionals that are out there that have been there for years, to come and speak to us like we normally do. We have guests from the Department of Children and Families, Community Partnerships with Children, Adult Protective Services will be here. And so I'll allow them to introduce themselves as they come up, and you guys can come up in pairs and do what you do. Okay, and so Linda, I'll let you come up.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We got our shirts on because we know what's going on this week, right? Go ahead, Jackie, and introduce yourself.
My name is Jackie Davis. I'm a program administrator with the Department of Children and Family. I've been working there for over 31 years. I graduated from Bethune Cookman in 19. But when I was one of those people who wasn't prepared. I didn't do an internship, and I started out teaching school, didn't like it. And then I started with the Department of Children and Families, and I've been there ever since. And my degree is in criminal justice.
So my name is Linda Mandiza, and I actually grew up in upstate New York. Are you guys familiar with the ACEs as part of sociology, psychology, adverse childhood experiences? It's a 10-question questionnaire. It's experiences that you have had up to the age of 18, and the highest score is a 10. My ACEs is an 8 because of my own childhood experiences, and that's what led me to Florida and the Department of Children and Families. Okay, so my foster mom, before I left upstate New York, told me that the court order said I could not leave New York until I had a college degree. Now, the court order didn't say that, but she was looking out for my best interests. So I went to Potsdam State University and got a bachelor's degree in psychology and a concentration in sociology and education. And then I hit Florida because if you aren't from upstate New York, it's cold up there. Really, really, really cold for a very long time. So I worked for 10 years actually first because I needed a job as soon as I got here and I had no resources. I worked as a police dispatcher for Daytona Beach PD when it was at 990 Orange. And a lot of the officers would ask me, because of my college education, when they would go out on criminal investigations, about if I could go out with them and talk to the children. Because I don't know if you guys have any law enforcement in your family, but sometimes law enforcement is not the most empathetic, compassionate. You know, a lot of them are, but sometimes it's difficult to talk to children that are going through trauma. So I started doing that and became aware of the Department of Children and Families. So after 10 years of totally not utilizing my degree at all, I applied to be a child protective investigator. I was a child protective investigator with Miss Jackie, that's where we met. And the Department of Children and Families as an agency, we are looking for people who are willing to open yourselves up to families and children that have trauma. They may only have like a one-time crisis. They may just need some help. Back in the day when we started, it was more of a, we would get an intake from the hotline and we would go out and find out if it occurred and who done it, basically. That's what we were doing. We have evolved into an organization that does what's called a family functioning assessment, which is basically a biopsychosocial of the family. So we talk to all of the household members. We get to know them. We get to know what their aspirations are, what their experiences are, what they're going through right now, and we try to assist and help them in the most empathetic and compassionate way that we can. We go in saying, first, we do no harm, right? So the Department of Children and Families is actually established through Florida Statute Chapter 39. If you ever want to go to bed early, please feel free to read it because you'll be asleep very quickly. However, it is very prescriptive. For instance, unless the hotline is called in Tallahassee and they accept a report, we do not go to anyone's home. So unless we have that report, we are not like out in the community canvassing for abuse and neglect cases. In Volusia County alone, I think when we started we were getting 1,200, this is like 1999, we were getting about 1,200 in Volusia County a year. We are up to almost 7,000 in just Volusia County. You know, we are always going to have a need for quality child protective investigators, adult protective investigators, case managers. It's a whole system and an organization. It's in every county, every community in the state of Florida. One of the things I'd like to bring out, though, is this. We do have an intern program. So internships are, we love them. We absolutely love them. I have business cards in my hand. It is a formalized process. You will have to have like a background screening and stuff like that. But we are looking for people to come and see what we do, because some of you might just have the heart to do it, you know. It is field work, though. We don't conduct investigations over the phone. We do some collateral contacts and some maybe friends, relatives are contacting the school or something like that, but we are in the home with the family. We even have an order of our interviews in that we interview our victim child first, take the information that they give us into our next interview with the other children in the home, take that combined information and speak with non-offending people in the home, and then when we have all of that information, we then speak with an alleged perpetrator in the home. Now, I will tell you this, the hotline is in Tallahassee. Anyone who has reasonable cause to suspect abuse or neglect or abandonment of a child can call the hotline. In fact, there are many of you in your careers, in fact, Dr. Hollar is one of them, that are considered mandated reporters. So if you suspect abuse and neglect, then you are mandated to report it. Teachers are also mandated, law enforcement officers. We work a lot with law enforcement because a lot of our intakes involve some level of criminality as well, and the local community. Now, if you had the heart to be a Department of Children and Families Child Protective Investigator, there are multiple opportunities for you to grow in the agency. I started as a CPI, as did Miss Jackie, and I went from CPI to CPI supervisor to a specialist, which is a person who kind of helps out operations on the day-to-day, doing data analysis and things like that. I was a program administrator, and now I am the operations manager for all of Circuit 7, which is Volusia, Flagler, Putnam, and St. Johns counties. So I'm responsible for almost 150 child protective investigators and support staff, and almost all of those 7,000 investigations that we get in just Volusia County alone. If you count my other counties, we're up to about 13,000 intakes that we receive every year. So the experience at the Department of Children and Families, coming from where I come from, I do not have a lot of family. I don't have any biological family. My family is the Department of Children and Families. I found my family there, and I think there are a lot of people in this room, maybe, but I think there are a lot of people out there that could find their family at the department, for sure. Does anybody have any questions? Did I not cover something you want to cover? You do have to have a 4-year degree, so, and we prioritize sociology and psychology as degrees.
Yes. We have a question here.
Sure.
When do you guys start like taking the interns? Like when does the internship actually start?
All right, so the person who does the interns is actually in Jacksonville because that's our regional hub. We're in what's called Circuit 7, but anytime, honestly anytime, because a lot of institutions do not go into the child welfare aspect of a psych and sociology degree, and there's a whole big field out there that is amazing. It's something where every single time you interact with the family, you have the opportunity to change them for good. And you may never find out that you did, but that one referral, or having the extra long conversation with a teen that has dropped out of school, that gets him back into school and connecting him with someone who keeps him there, there's no better outcome than that, right? How can you feel any better? Now, do we make millions upon millions of dollars? No. The answer to that question is no, but I will tell you, for some of my counties, like Putnam County is either number 1 or number 2 in the whole state of Florida as one of the most impoverished counties in the state of Florida. And, you know, a $35,000 salary to start off is a really good salary. Now, obviously, as you move up, you increase your salary and stuff like that, but even the starting salary is pretty decent for some of the areas that we have in Circuit 7. The other thing that I wanted to mention, it just went out my head. Yeah, this is very important. So you have your 4-year degree, right, and you have your background screening and all the other stuff. We are also, we also send you through class. You will take a statewide exam at the end of that class. You have to pass it with an 80% or more. Once you get that, you are called provisionally certified through the Florida Certification Board, because we are all certified child welfare professionals, which means we have to have trainings every 2 years. We We have to re-up our certifications. We have a specific number of trainings every 2 years that we have to attend to keep us sharp. And I mean, that's really how we started learning about trauma and trauma history in families and how to address that when we're out there. The Florida Certification Board certification is it is not only just to say that you pass the test and you're a child welfare professional, but it also has an integrity aspect and an ethics aspect to it. So, you know, if you don't hold the standards of the state and yourself in a way that is, you know, with respect and integrity, then you will likely lose your certification.
So let's say I'm still a college student and I know I want to do an internship with DCF.
Yes.
Are there things that I could do to prepare for that? Like, can I volunteer while I'm an undergrad for any DCF program?
Okay, so because of the confidential nature of what we deal with on the daily, we can't have volunteers unless you're willing to go through all the rigors of being a intern. So it's probably better for you and your resume if you come an intern. You don't have to be in a certain class year. We will put you through the intern process. Now I'm going to tell you, we're going to show you as interns what it is like to be a child protective investigator. So you're going to be out in the field and you're going to be making everything that a CPI does. You know, one sheet of paper becomes a book of sheets of paper because we have to document and make sure that we have a good record of what we are doing when we're interacting with families. So referrals, writing, computer work, I mean, it covers the gamut of a lot of stuff, and it will physically and emotionally drain you. One of the things I talk to my new hires about all the time in my orientation is resilience, because coming out of school, or if you're really used to air conditioning and niceties and things like that, you're going to have to develop your field resilience. So after you graduate from the in-service class and get that provisional certification, we go out with you. I assign you to a field training investigator, and you get attached to that person. And that's where you learn for the next 30 days what the field is like, without having to take a case and be responsible for it, because that's, you know, I was an Electrolux vacuum cleaner salesman when I was in college, so I don't mind going to anybody's door. I will talk to anyone. I know all of my ladies at the public supermarket, they know me by name. I love talking to people. But some people, you know, if you're younger, you may not feel very comfortable going up to a door and knocking on it by yourself, right? So that 30 days gives you the opportunity to build up your field resilience.
Okay. And, question, I guess. Go ahead.
So you say you work with children. Do you also work with adults, or is it only children?
Well, I think we have someone here who's going to talk about adult protective investigations, because those are part of our vulnerable population in our communities as well.
Can both of you share, as we wrap up, can both of you share something of the many things that there are, something that you love about what you do that helps you to, you know, that gives you your sense of purpose?
Okay, well, I have like a million things. I'm going to get goosebumps there. I could tell you, I could sit here for 3 hours and tell you stories about individual families where we have done, like, where workers who are making the lowest collect funds and get someone that we just had to put into foster care, Air Force One's for his birthday, because it happened to be the day before his birthday that his family imploded. We have a young gentleman that I met first when he was 4 years old. He is now 22 years old. He's living in Colorado. I paid for his GED because he dropped out of school because he was in foster care 4 times up until the age of 16. I paid for his GED exam. I think it was the 5th time. It got all the way up to $72. Best $72 I ever spent, because on the 5th time, because I didn't give up, he passed it. So he was able to go to Colorado with a GED. That makes a difference in someone's life. You know, a lot of people like the little babies. I love the kids that have trauma history, that have to overcome more than the regular person. When you see them succeed, or they send you a letter afterwards and say, hey, you helped me out, I'm the wealthiest person in the world. What would you say, Jackie?
What do you love about what you do?
What I love about the job, we like a family. Like my staff, I'm responsible. I have probably 60 staff. I mean, like we sit to the table, as Matt was just saying, we really are like a real family. because I spend more time at work than I do with my own family at home. So it gives me that sense where, like, if you don't have a lot of support at home, when you come to work, I love going to work every day. I look forward to going to work every day. And then, you know, you just get a chance to just, you know, kind of sit around, talk about maybe not work, but some other stuff that, you know, that you're not comfortable talking to other people about. You know, you talk to your coworkers, because you see them every day. How you can be better with your families. You know, it's just a fun time. Like, I mean, it's not always fun, but we make it fun, interesting. It's never a dull day at DCL, ever.
Well, and you have to realize, we take intakes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So Columbus Day coming up on Monday, Christmas, Thanksgiving. I can't tell you how many years I was out at somebody else's Thanksgiving table, or how many times I've been at a home so late that I ordered pizza for us to eat because we still had a lot of work to do and a lot of talking and stuff like that. So it is 24/7, and most of the time we don't have enough staff to cover the number that we get, so we ask a lot of you. We really do. The legislature is getting much more wise about that, and the fact that you have secondary traumatic stress as a part of being a person who is dealing with people in crisis all the time, and that means you need more downtime than someone who is just sitting at a desk job. So they are finally coming around to those types of ideas and concepts, and increasing our frontline staff.
And so I used to work for DCF for about 6 years at Florida State Hospital. So DCF is a huge agency that provides many different kinds of services to the residents of Florida. And so what I would say is that if you really want to apply the things that you're learning in these textbooks and get the real world experience of what it is that psychologists and sociologists do, working for the Department of Children and Families will give you that intense training and experience, because it is very real what goes on in the lives of people throughout the state of Florida. Other states have similar agencies as well, but it gives you a really in-depth understanding and training and expertise that you could, like myself, take elsewhere once you leave the Department of Children and Families. Yes,
if
go
you
ahead.
have CPI on your resume, I mean, teachers, social workers, they know that you're a resilient person. They know that you've seen frontline work and that you're dedicated and have integrity. So they easily get hired at other organizations too. But we don't want you to go to other organizations. We want you to stay. We want you to stay and move up and be a part of our family.
I was going to ask if you have one card.
One card? Sure. I have like, I don't have enough. I have like 7.
Yes, and let's wait until the end before you all leave. You know how we do. We mingle at the end for those of you that want to talk to our guests. You have a question?
Yes. Say that I did an internship in my senior year and you guys wanted to hire me. What if when I graduated I didn't want to live in Daytona? Could I be transferred somewhere else?
Absolutely. In fact, we have a lot of folks that even from like Miami, that, you know, that's really intense down there, right? So, and their roots are here in Daytona, so they'll request a transfer. But we have people that really work well in Putnam County because, you know, it makes them happy. So we try to make people happy with the community that they're working in, for sure.
You have a question over here?
Are there some out of state?
Now, there are departments of children and families called other names in every state in the nation.
Yes.
It's part of their statutory obligation and part of the federal government oversight. So, like in Georgia, it's called DFACS. Here, we call it Department of Children and Families. But we used to be, what were we before? We were HRS for a long time. And Medicaid and food stamps, that's also through the Department of Children and Families. All those workers that do all that processing and those kinds of things, that's running through the Department of Children and Families as well. So it's a big place. Big place, lots of places to go.
All right, well, thank you, and please stay, of course, and we're going to mingle with you afterwards. Our next guests are from Community Partnerships with Children, who've been coming to speak to us over the few weeks that we've been having our seminars. And this guest is particularly exciting for me to have because he was one of my students when I taught at Florida A&M University. So Sharif Williams, and if you can stand up and introduce yourself. Excuse me?
She's supposed to say something about fam, but that's fine. I don't see no divide, so everybody
Right, exactly.
competitive, that's fine with me, but I don't see it the same way. I'm just glad that I graduated from this point.
One community. You got your dashiki on.
So once again, I'm Sharif Williams. I've worked for Community Partnership for Children for about going on 4 years now. And basically, if no one in the room knows, that's a case management agency that's contracted through DCF. So DCF privatized earlier in the 2000s to kind of divide all the work that they had to do under one roof. And they divided case management to other agencies they contract out, and that's our agency, Community Partnership for Children. So we offer a lot of case management services and ongoing. We're with families for a longer portion of their cases. 9 months to a year is average that we're on cases, so we definitely get a lot of engagement with families and get to know a lot about the families and ways to help them over time, which is a lot different than small periods of time. One of the biggest things that I've seen from earlier, kind of bridging a certain gap that everybody was asking, from school to getting in the field, I think one of the biggest things is marketing that you guys can build on before you graduate. This is social work, sociology, psychology field, but marketing is a very big thing for yourselves when you get out of here. Pretty much just think, what do you want to do? What's your gift? What's your natural talents? What you're going to be able to do in the field specifically? Because social work field is vast. It can be counseling, it can be case management, it can be child welfare, protective services, adult, children, anything really. A lot of things. Anything having to do with social, anything having to do with real life. So when you want to build your resume, depending on what field you want to go into, you just want to reflect what you have to offer, what you're bringing to the table. Because just what was touched on earlier, when you go to school, same thing as when you go into the field. It's more like a partnership. It's not really you work for them or you're inferior to superiors. It's kind of teaming up, bringing what you have to offer to the table and making that company, making that organization better as a whole. So if you're better with working with children, if you're better with counseling, if you're better with mental aspects, you might want to build more of that while you're in school. Try to volunteer, try to get an internship with maybe counseling agencies. Some of the different ones we have, if you're looking into mental counseling, we have A Helping Hand, we have ADAPT, we have a couple agencies like that. If you're looking more into child welfare, we have Community Partnership for Children, we have DCF. If you're looking into other areas, there's job descriptions. So basically, one of the questions I also seen was, how do you prepare, or how do you know what field you can go into? If you want to know, the best thing that I seen after I graduated was looking at job descriptions. That's something I wasn't made privy to beforehand. Depending on exactly what you want to do, if you do know beforehand, go online before you graduate and kind of see what the job description is, what they're looking for, what experience they're looking for. That helps you know what to go for, because there's so many things available to you. It's so wide that you don't know where to put your time. You only have 24 hours in a day. So if you kind of want to make a focus, look at what you want to do. Just take a gaze on Indeed and kind of see what's available, what their requirements are, how much experience they're looking for. What do they want you to bring to the table, pretty much, and that's how you can build before you graduate. That's pretty much one of the main things. To touch on DCF, DCF offering a lot of services, they have exposure. So if you don't know what you want before you get there, you can go into DCF. With as much positions as they have available, you can kind of seek and bounce around to figure out where exactly you want to go, because there's so many different paths, there's so many different fields that you get exposure with DCF that can gain you more focus in the future. That's kind of how I see it. When you want to get into this social work field, you kind of want as much exposure as possible. That's part of your marketing. You want to work with children. You want to have a background in a lot of different areas, because certain agencies don't just do one thing. They work with different age groups. They work with different demographics. They work with a lot of different things. So you want to be very marketable, you want to have a lot of exposure, you want to have a lot of things to bring to the table. So the more exposure you can get, the better. And then it kind of just gets focused from there. Yes.
Okay, in your field of work, does it also work with family and marriage, or only kids and adults with families?
Honestly, case management is one of those fields that's kind of, if somebody else is not doing it, you're doing it. While you're involved with the family, and depending on what type of heart you have. So I just want to ask this question first. Who here has been through any type of trauma? One parent household, abuse, neglect, Any exposure to violence?
Everybody.
Anything like that?
Everybody.
So that definitely is the type of people that will be going into this field. That's what, it does take a heart. It's not one of those things where you can see pay or just see like, hey, I can get an easy check and you just go do it every day. You do have to be invested. You do have to be involved. You do have to be engaged. So basically, when you're in the home with these families, just because they have a family counselor, a family therapist, when they decide to tell you when something you need for your paperwork, they automatically start breaking down. Everything was good until this 1 minute. All of a sudden, now they can't make their bills. They can't pay rent. They don't have a car. They don't have transportation. When 2 weeks ago in court, everything was handled. All of a sudden, you become a counselor. So you have to get them through that. You don't just say, all right, we'll sign my paperwork. I'm going to go ahead and leave. You kind of work them through that process because you do want the best for the family at the end of the case. So you just kind of do what's best. So our primary focus, we really do a lot of legal documentation. We do documents for court. We have things called judicial reviews. Just like Ms. Linda mentioned, we have family functioning assessments. We really assess and engage with families to put together in certain documents over time to really give a vivid picture to the courts and people that are not engaged. What are the deficits of this family, how they progress, what they can use, what will be assistive, and how successful they'll be once the department is out of their lives. So sometimes if an issue is domestic violence, you might be in there with both the parents doing some type of marriage counseling and explaining them ways that they can get through the case that's best for their children. So a lot of other service providers are going to come in with counseling, they're more focused on the mental. With case management, you're just focused on the overall picture. So sometimes depending on whatever they need, you might have to offer it. So it's a lot, it's domestic violence counseling, it's marriage counseling, it's youth counseling, it's a lot of different.
Any more questions? Comments? Over here? Yep.
Did you enter the job with that job, or did you work your way up to that?
When I came on with CPC, they hire as trainees. So the same thing, they hire you as a trainee first, and it's kind of like a work for hire, because if you don't pass the test, then you're out of a job. So to build myself, I had an internship in the inner city being a youth counselor. Because I know mainly I just wanted to work with youth. I didn't know exactly in what aspect. I didn't know if I wanted to be a teacher. I didn't know if I wanted to be athletic. I didn't know if I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just knew that I need to do something with kids. So the main thing was summer camps, counseling, things like that. So I got out, I got with a program that was doing summer counseling, and I did that for the summer, and it kind of showed me a little bit more of where I wanted to go. I know I wanted to work more with the mental aspect of children, and more of the families as well, because that's where the dynamic comes from. Because as long as we have child issues, we're going to have parent issues, adult issues, child issues. It's just a revolving circle. So when I came to Community Partnership for Children, I did come in as a case manager trainee. So that is where I started. I did interview with DCF before, and I did some investigative practices, but I didn't all the way go through with investigations. So case management is majority of my exposure.
So what is your degree in?
My degree, primarily sociology, and minor in psychology.
Okay, and what did you do? I guess you told us what you did immediately after you graduated.
Yes, so I was employed as a youth athletic trainer, and I was kind of just in Tallahassee just trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do. I know I enjoyed my job at the time, and that's kind of where I seen that I wanted to work with the families, because kids will come out, they try to be focused on athletically training, but you know, they don't have any socks on their feet, they don't have a belt holding up their pants, they don't have this, they don't have that. And a lot of things that they reflect on were interfering with what we were there to do. So I knew, even though I loved training them athletically, I wasn't able to do my job because they had other things going on at home. So that's what kind of drove me and gave me the education that I think I want to go into this part with the families. Getting into it, I kind of went into depression when I kind of wanted to throw my sociology degree away, because psychology and social work seem to be more on the job postings for preferred degrees. So having a major in sociology, I kind of beat myself up over it for a little while, but it's still kind of one and the same with psychology and social work. So it's still a good major. I kind of would still switch it, but that's what I plan to get my graduate degree in psychology.
Any more questions? Do you have a guest with you?
I did. He's kind of in the field as well. He's just learning more about it.
Okay.
So this was another exposure.
And you see, you're never too, you know, you can always try to get some mentorship, volunteer, shadow people. It's important to get yourself introduced to the field and to know people. They say it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's what you know, but it's also who you know as well. You have to make these connections. You're not going to make them if all you do is go to class and read your books. And yes, you get A's, and that's great, but when you graduate, you won't have a network. You won't have people that you know to contact for possible job experiences or internships in between, going to graduate school if you don't decide to go straight into grad school. But even for graduate school, that's important to make connections, like Angel and Lydia were telling us. You have to do research, go to conferences, put yourself out there, network, as well as get the grades. So it's what you know and it's who you know.
That's another thing I'm still noticing. I'm trying to get a hang of because I'm also an introvert. So I've realized a lot of my opportunities have come from connections, networking. Even if you're in this area of Florida, just like someone asked earlier, there can be the same type of opportunities in another state, in another area, but you don't know about it because you don't know the name, or you don't know what it's under, or what agency is contracted through, so you kind of just leave that possibility out. If you have those connections, especially from your department in school, that other people go off, they go to other areas, and they get other professions, and you guys keep in touch, that could really minimize a lot of time that you take trying to figure out where you want to go, what you want to do. Like, for instance, I have a friend in Texas. They say social work is a lot better system in Texas. It runs a lot smoother. And I have inside knowledge that they're actually doing it, not just going online or certain things like that. They can tell you the day-to-day real aspects just as we are today. And that kind of speeds up the process for research when you want to figure out where you want to go. So that helps.
Let's give Sharif a round of applause. So before I bring up our next guest, I just want you to know there were some grumblings in the room when I said FAMU, but I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the connections that were made at Florida A&M University, because Dr. Yvonne Mahey, who was the former chair, was at a conference in Tallahassee at FAMU, and she recruited me to come here. So you have to make these connections and don't get so caught up in your silos that you limit yourself, because you don't know where your life will take you. You just have to be prepared, though. And so I'm going to bring up our next guest. They are from Adult Protective Services, so those of you who are interested in working more with adults, pay attention and get your questions ready. And I'll let you two ladies come up and introduce yourselves.
I'm Jessica. I'm with DCF. I've been there almost 7 years now. I started out as an investigator, much like the CPI side, except for I work with vulnerable adults, which is generally elderly, and it's also disabled adults is what we work with. I'm now in the regional office up in Jacksonville, but I'm actually based here in Daytona. So we do a lot of the same things as CPI, but we do it with adults. We work with elderly and disabled people who generally are being abused, self-neglecting, they're being exploited, they're being neglected. So we work a lot with law enforcement. We also work with the state attorney's office. So we have a huge network of people that we work with in this field. I miss my investigations because I miss being at the houses. I was their voice when they couldn't be their voice. You definitely have to have a heart with this job. If you don't have a heart, you're in the wrong field. So we get to do somebody who's being exploited, somebody who no longer has a home, they don't have food, they don't have a car. These are real life things that happen every day, and I'm the one who gets to go out and work with these people. I'm the one who gets their house back. I'm the one who gets their money back. It's a rewarding field, which is why I stay, because the money is not great. But I love, but I love what I do. When I go home at night and I go to sleep, I feel good about what I do. I feel good about what I did that day. It is the most non-monetary rewarding job I've ever had outside of being a mom. That, of course, is number one. It takes a lot. It's not a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 job. It's 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. And even when you're not working, you're thinking about working. I see you. So, you have to be in it. You definitely have to network with this field. It's trying. You have to know how to conduct yourself in court. You have to know how to conduct yourself in nursing homes and with APD, and you need to know how to talk and read people. That's a huge thing in this field, is being able to read the people that you work with. Because sometimes you hear their words, but their actions are speaking volumes louder than any word you'll hear from them.
My name is Cindy Adams. I'm a registered nurse. I started out in the hospital setting, and then I went on and I have a bachelor's degree in nursing. I also have a certification in case management and disability management. As nurses, we have, in our area, we have 3, and I'm based out of Clay County, but I spend a lot of time, I cover Clay, sometimes Duval. I spend a lot of time in Volusia County and St. Johns County and Flagler County. As nurses, we are not the front lines. The investigators are the ones who initially, get the case. And we are consultants for them because they, for the most part, are not medical. They don't have a lot of medical experience. Now, some of them do come, with some, and over time, you do learn more about medical things. But as the nurses, we are resources for them. We can answer their questions. We also, when they call us in a case, we get a lot of cases from nursing homes that have to do with abuse and neglect related to bruises, injuries, bed sores, and that type of thing. So the investigator will call us in, and we will, we basically work off of medical records. We get the medical records, and then we look at it and try to make a decision about whether the person, the vulnerable adult, was neglected or abused, or if they were just so ill that the things may have happened to them anyway. So we get those cases. We do get some from the hospital, falls, people get injured, they get, the family sues or something like that. Sometimes we get involved in those cases. Also, as a registered nurse, a lot of what I spend my time doing is what I call capacity evaluations. When our vulnerable adults get to the point where they can't really, they're not able to make their own informed decisions anymore, and they're wandering or they're self-neglecting is a lot of what we get, then we try to get their physician to give us an answer as to whether they feel like they still have capacity or whether they lack capacity. Volusia County particularly, the physicians, they don't like to go to court, so a lot of times they'll say, well, we can't give you a decision. So the physician is always the front line, but if there's no physician willing to give an answer or a decision, then the court will, they will allow a registered nurse specialist to make that determination. So I do from time to time have to go to court, I have to testify, and what we're trying to do is get what we call protective supervision of an individual, which means that they might be, we might put services in the home, they might be placed in the ALF or in a nursing home, depending on what their level of care needs are. And so I'm very, I'm trying to be very careful, because when I'm evaluating people, we're basically for a period of time taking their rights away. We try to get a family member to step up if possible, but in Florida you run into a lot of times that the individual doesn't have a family. If they do, they're in New York or they're up north somewhere, and we try to get the family to step in, but sometimes there's no family, the family is not willing, or the family is not member is not appropriate, like maybe they're a criminal, or they're exploiting the the individual. So we, like I said, I spend a lot of time doing that as far as the capacity evaluations. Anything?
Do we have any questions? In the back, go ahead.
Do you mostly just work with the elderly?
I can't hear you.
Do you mostly just work with the elderly?
It's a pretty good mix. We have about 50-50 to elderly to disabled adults, anyone who's on the autism spectrum, Willie Pratter, things of that nature, head traumas. So it's a pretty good mix of what we have for our vulnerable adults. Anyone else?
Any other questions? Now's your time to ask. Well, I want to say that I'm very glad that you both came and that you brought someone from nursing, because what you're going to do as a professional is interdisciplinary. You're going to be working with nurses, you're going to be working with social workers, clinical psychologists, psychiatrists. You'll even be working with law enforcement, so maybe Department of Juvenile Justice and the legal system in general, like having to go to court to testify. Okay, question in the back.
Okay, so I didn't ask any other questions because I was waiting for them to come with an adult. But as for like the adult spectrum, like criminal psychology, like how would you go about like that? Like maybe like working in like a prison and talking to inmates that have problems, like talking to pathological.
Okay, great. Well, that puts me on the spot. That's what I was doing at Florida State Hospital. So I worked with people who were found not guilty by reason of insanity, or who were incompetent to proceed with their legal charges because they had a diagnosed mental illness. And so the way to go about that is by volunteering, doing internships, doing well in your schoolwork, and doing research. And you apply to these agencies, and if you have set yourself apart and distinguished yourself, you get selected. And it just will open up a whole world to you as far as understanding serious mental illness and the interplay between families and the legal system, your physical health as well. And you work with experts in different disciplines to treat a person. It's not just a psychologist treating a person in a silo, meaning isolated without having the other information from nursing, from the medical doctor, the psychiatrist, from the social worker, and even from law enforcement. There may be some legal things that you need to know to help treat the person and get them set up for discharge into the community. So that's forensic psychology, being a behavioral analyst or a forensic psychologist working at a mental health hospital. But you can also be a forensic psychologist and work in the federal prison system as well. These are very intense places, okay? You're working with people who have felony charges. And so, after doing that for 6 years and waking up in the morning and trying to walk into the secured facility, and, a patient might be coming out, cursing you out because they have some delusion about you, you haven't had your coffee yet, and you've obviously done something to them in their world, and being cursed out and threatened, after a while I was ready for something different. But those skills have trained me to come to an environment like this where things are stressful, but they're never as stressful as what I have been through before. So I enjoy it. I have a great time. There are problems that go on, but to me it's never as real as it can get, as life can be at times. Was there a comment someone was going to say? Oh, go ahead.
For an internship like that, like what would you go about? Like,
talk to me after, and I'll give you some more details. And so last but not least, we have a student of mine, of yours, a colleagues of yours here at Bethune, and she's going to talk to you about her field experience at Child's Academy, and I will let her introduce herself and take it away.
Hello, I'm Nad Armoudi. I'm a senior. I graduated this fall.
Speak up.
I'll try to speak up. I'm spoken. Okay, the history on Child Academy. The name was in honor of former Florida Governor Lawson Charles, who believed in improving the lives of all children. Child Academy offers specialized computer-based curriculums, parenting class, and on-site child care. Furthermore, they also have an early head start provider for child care for 0 to 3 months in Willis County. Identification, description, and placement setting. The Child's Academy offered child rearing classes to moms and expecting moms. A PC-based educational programs to moms and early Head Start servers for children between the ages of 0 to 3 years of age in Volusia County zone. The Child Academy was the main supplier of early Head Start benefits in Volusia County until the point of January, when it started to be given to other different schools in the county. Child Academy offer all encompassing administration and care to young children who go to school, and additionally their child. These administration extend from dental care, mental accession, mental accession and arrangement of meal and food. Sorry, I'm nervous, y'all.
You can just stand here.
I would still-
You can just stand here and look at that and speak to the class.
Okay. On a typical day at Child Academy, I would put in, like, there's about 7 classrooms, and I would put in at least 5 for that day, for the time being of me being there. I'm usually in classroom number 2, where I'm in between infants, let's say 1 to 2 years old. Typically, I would feed them, play with them until they get tired, and give them bottles on that. And around, let's say, at 12 o'clock, the mother will bring them back after lunch. That's my typical day there at Child Academy. As far as supervision and feedback, I had great feedback from the administration there. They said I'm very outgoing, and I tend to open up kids more as they start to, for example, last week I was just there, and a kid just started that first day. He was crying and everything, and so I helped him open up some kids and helped him play and open to administration, basically. The training there is very self-preparing portion. They give us guidelines and rules how to dress up, and we have to dress accordingly because we're around kids a lot, and you're going to be you could be around children. You have to bend down, play on the floor, do all that good stuff with them, and so you have to dress in leggings or very reserved clothes. The ethical and legal behaviors, as I said, you do have a certain dress code there, and I would say for ethical behavior,
Anything
you're not
about
allowed to
confidentiality that you have
yes,
to?
you're not allowed to discuss anything outside of Child Academy. So once you discuss, like, for example, a mother comes to you for advice, you're not allowed to go say, hey, I just heard from this person, this and that and the third. You're not allowed to disclose that. And basically we utilize this computers, basically. That's how we do that. The kids would go in there to watch YouTube videos, and that's really about it. That's all they use the computer for there, honestly. And diversity. Oh, there was a lot of diversity there. A lot of Hispanics, Black American, whites, as far as the staff goes. As far as the mothers, there are a lot of us as well. Same about Hispanic, whites, and African American.
What's the predominant population that they serve there?
I'm not quite sure.
Well, who did you see most of when you were there?
I mostly see Hispanics there.
Okay.
Oh, and also, if there were any holidays or anything, they would literally take that to heart. The whole school will be decorated in the theme of that month. And I really enjoyed my internship there. I enjoy the children there mostly. That's what I enjoy mostly going to. As far as staff, they're good too, but I prefer children.
Okay. What age groups did you work with?
1 to 3.
1 to 3. And Child's Academy is one of the field placements that a lot of our students go to during their senior year. You have to do a field experience. And it's for young mothers, correct?
Yes, teen
that have
mothers.
children. And so the mothers are there to go to school, and they have a section for their children to be there as well.
Yes, the child is downstairs and they're upstairs in their
So it's a great place to get experience, and you see how the interplay of all these different agencies are connected throughout a person's life. This is a developmental way of thinking about providing services, because usually when people have to get these services, they need multiple services through different disciplines. Okay. Do we have any questions? Okay, Atira, go ahead.
Sorry. What is it that what is it that you want to do that led you to this internship?
Psychology. And that was a great place to start because I get to analyze their behavior and see how they interact with the staff.
So
it's a gender question. Is there male working there also? Or it's just women?
As far as males, they really the ones who fix around the school. That's about it. They're not the teachers, they're not the nurses. Just construction.
But there have been male interns
Yeah.
from our program that have gone there
Yeah,
to do work, correct. Any other questions before we wrap up? All right, well today was a jam-packed day, and so I'm going to allow you all this last minute to talk to our guests and to get contact information. Make sure you sign the roll so you get credit before you leave today. And thank you all for your attention. Let's give everyone a round of applause.